What's good, nerds? I kind of redid my studio again. Nothing that should be noticeable. I mean, if we did it all right, it shouldn't be noticeable. Lighting's a tiny bit better. I just adjusted the main light. Hopefully, fingers crossed, nothing will be noticeably different. But if I screwed up, things will probably be noticeably different. Yeah, should be good. Yes, a new PC. Technically, I have like 3 new PCs where I swap parts across too many different things. And the result is not super stable for reasons that aren't actually my fault. Still annoying, but like, yeah, we'll figure out what that means long term. I'll just give the whole story. I have 3 desktops and a gaming laptop that I use for things that need a GPU. So I have we'll start with what used to be my main stream rig, the one in my bedroom, which is where I used to stream, where I still occasionally stream, but I also like having a gaming rig in my room so I can like play video games sometimes. So I have that. That was rocking a 3080 Ti and an 11th gen i7, not even an i9 from Intel. And 16 gigs of RAM until recently where I bumped it to 32. Didn't even need it, I just had extra RAM around. So that was my main stream recording rig for a very long time. But I wanted that in my room because I want to be able to play games on it. So I needed something for up here. I did a ton of research. I wanted 2 NVIDIA encoder lanes, which means I have to get a 4070 or nicer because the 4070 and below, 4070 Ti or nicer. The 4070 and below sucked because it only has 1 NVENC lane. Theoretically, I get like 2 4050s, but OBS isn't super stable with multiple GPUs. So I wanted just 1 GPU with multiple encoders. So I need a 4070 Ti or newer. I found it's out there now, a gaming laptop by Lenovo that had a 4080 and like really good specs overall for like $2,000. So I grabbed that and I've been doing all of my video recording on that for the past 4 or 5 months. But the fans are loud and it's loud. And I wanted something that I could like leave in here for good that didn't have so many weird IO quirks that I was working around. I still love having a gaming laptop that I can use for like portable streams and shit. Like I will be using that plenty. But the goal with a rig up here was to not have to think about it as much and have fewer fans going. And also native 10 gig because if you want to hear like the stupidest first world problem ever in like the world I live in, I had a Thunderbolt 4 dock that I was using with my Lenovo that had a 10 gig Ethernet on it, which obviously I need because I need to transfer 500 plus gigs of footage to my NAS when I'm done. There was literally no world in which I could get that to do wake on LAN because when the computer sleeps, it took the whole dock down with it and it didn't like to not sleep because it's a Windows laptop running Windows 11 and a ton of like really high-end GPUs and CPUs in it. So it just generated endless heat. So I needed something that I could wake from LAN on and I concluded a desktop was probably the best bet. I needed a way to do wake on LAN and wanted something more stable up here, but I needed at least a 4070 Ti. And I also, let's be real, I wanted a 4090. I've wanted the highest end NVIDIA GPU for a long time and just never had a good excuse for it. But the combination of the AI stuff and the encoding stuff meant I could kind of justify it. Then I saw that Dell on sale, the one I tweeted about a couple weeks ago. This guy. This machine has a decent i7, modern-ish, not 14th gen, but 13th is fine. A Windows 11 license, which always nice to have another one of those around, I'll be real. Some RAM, an NVIDIA, or like an NVMe SSD, that's fine. But also a 4090. And this was $2,300. That basically means you're getting a $2,000 graphics card and a decent computer bundled in for $300. So very nice. Very, very reasonably priced. I saw this and then I learned that the GPU, the 4090, that Dell manufactures is actually one of the better 4090s. So was hyped for that. So I forgot to mention the other 2 PCs. So I had the one up here, and then I had my third PC, which is my TV PC. Believe it or not, I actually think Windows is probably the best operating system to use on a television. tvOS is a joke. I just want my tiny little portable keyboard trackpad. This guy. God, speaking of which, if anybody can find a higher end version of this, I would literally spend $400 for something 20% better. Because this guy's like 20 to 30 bucks on Amazon. It's the K400, I believe. Yeah, the K400 Plus is what this guy is. And it is so convenient and it's pretty shit. If it was slightly nicer, I would spend a lot of money. They had a nicer version for a bit called the K800, I think. And they stopped selling it by the time I wanted it. And when I researched trying to find one, I actually found one used on eBay for like 100 something bucks, even though it was $80 originally. Got that. It was broken when it showed up. Mark tried to fix it and it was just fucking destroyed. So I have never had a better like couch all-in-one trackpad plus keyboard than this. This thing was like 20 to 30 bucks. So I would literally spend over 100. I'd spend 200 to 300, maybe even 400 for this, but really nice. Like I just need something slightly better because I use this too much for it to be quite as shitty as it is. It's like, I'd say it's like a 6 or a 7 out of 10. And if I could just bump to an 8, I'd pay a ton of money for it. I see somebody saying in chat already, Joe saying I can glue a Apple trackpad and keyboard together. I've legitimately considered that option. I need it to work well on Windows is the catch. And that combo doesn't work great on Windows. So this, but higher end in Windows functioning, I will pay dumb money for. And if you find something that already exists and I buy it and like it, I'll just give you $100. So there, incentives. Anyways, the market needs to adjust and make higher end versions of that because I need it badly. As I was saying about PCs though, this is now the PC I have in my living room for my TV, which is really nice. It's actually pretty solid and way quieter than the one I had there before. I had in the PC I had out there before, I had a 3060 Ti, I think. So I swapped that into this. I took the 4090, put that on my room PC, but I also wanted 10 gig in my room PC, and that one only had a 5 gig card in it. So I did a thing that I thought was really smart and have since learned was a mistake. Asus has this motherboard I've been eyeing for a very long time because I don't know if you guys know this about creators, but we have different needs from gamers. I know, crazy. Creators and gamers are different, but we are. So I needed something that worked better for my weird use case of needing to do 10 gig, needing Thunderbolt, needing a lot of these IO things for transferring shit around. So this board has been something I've thought about a lot because it has 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports. It has a 10 gig and a 2.5 gig Ethernet baked in, a bunch of USB 3.2 Gen 2s, which is also huge for me, and is like your typical high-end Z790 by Asus. And also a ton of M2 slots, like way too many M2 slots. So I was hyped to finally get this board. I've been eyeing this board for over a year now, and here we are. I thought this would be great, but I've had so many weird issues with this board, and that's the reason I'm doing the test stream today, because I just want to make sure everything is working because I'm in paranoia mode now. This 10 gig Ethernet, if you use it for any amount of data transfer more than a gigabit per second for any amount of time that's longer than like 10 minutes, hell, longer than like 3 minutes, it will randomly disconnect and not reconnect for at least 30 seconds, sometimes not for minutes. Which meant that my network connection on this computer was the least stable I've like ever had. And I've had some awful networking issues in my past. I just spent like an hour going through random shit, finding a bunch of weird things you have to turn off. Am I sure it's not a driver issue? One step further, I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's a lot of driver issues. There's a lot of things combined. Aquanita AQ Nation AQC 107, advanced driver property tweaks for maximum performance. This is all of the shit you have to change if you want your Asus's 10 gig port to not break constantly. So I went through and swapped all of those things out, and it's actually functioning now. So we'll see how that goes. But I've learned my lesson. A 10 gig Ethernet port on a computer, specifically on a motherboard, does not mean it functions. I guess my brain's just been rotted by Apple, because when Apple puts a 10 gigabit port on their computer, it actually does 10 gigabit and it sustains it and it doesn't fuck your computer up. My computer was crashing because of this. So that was terrifying and obnoxious. And the fact that a $470 motherboard that comes with a 10 gigabit port has worse 10 gigabit performance, just the motherboard, than a Mac Mini for $700 is insane. It's actually insane. So yeah, don't buy this fucking motherboard. Don't buy anything from Asus, generally speaking. They just don't work. And certainly do not trust a motherboard manufacturer in the like PC world, which is any motherboard manufacturer, to actually mean it when they say they support 10 gig, because they are lying. So yeah, fuck all of that. Obnoxious. Now I have this board in my PC in my room with the 4090 and a 14900K. And yeah, I'm going to go reinstall Windows 11 on this when I'm done, just to hopefully get stable. But the computer I'm using in here right now is a pile of all the parts that were left over from all of the other computers I just discussed, mainly the one that used to be in my room. So this is all of the hardware that I used to use for most of my streams, so I relatively trust it. Yeah. If anyone is watching this and has any reason to doubt the fact that like using a Mac makes your life much easier as a creator, you just don't take this shit seriously. I happen to like using PCs for recording, primarily because I've had a better experience with OBS on Windows. This has been hell. This has actually been hell. And I would never wish for any creator to go through these things. If you can afford to just buy the Mac Mini or the Mac Studio because you want 10 gig, just do that. This has been hell. Yeah. Well, now I have 3 PCs, a ton of capture cards, a ton of PCI cards, a ton of random IO just spread out everywhere. But hopefully, fingers crossed, this will finally be somewhat stable. Hopefully. We'll see how that goes.